Just wanted to make this video to help you find things. This week we are going to be doing the density lab. To do the density lab, unlike last week, you will need the lab simulation. You click here for lab simulation. Once you've registered, you will go to, let me see if I can pull it up here, a sheet that looks like this, and you'll go to density at characteristic property. You'll want to click down here. And this is your information about your lab. Okay, you're going to read this and you're going to need to use this information to fill out your lab report. Now we're going to go back to, this is back into Blackboard, and we click on density. We've got the module overview. We've got the video. This video is here, and there'll be another video that shows how to do your graph. And then we've got the density. This is where you're going to turn in your assignment. It's also, review assessment, it's also where you're going to pull up a copy of your lab report form. If you click here, you'll get your lab report form, which looks like this. You'll want to remove all the blue as you put in your information. So we'll need to write a purpose. This is your complete 2 or 3 complete sentences about the lab. We want to put the background. What is density? How is it calculated? Why is it a characteristic property? And what does that even mean to say that it's a characteristic property? You'll want to summarize the procedure. Now you're going to do all of this before you go into the lab, and the information is going to be in that little section I showed you right in here, where it explains the lab. This is what you're doing and all. You can also use other sources if you want to look up characteristic properties, you want to look up how to calculate density. You'd be fine to use other properties. Now, here we go. If you'll click here, we'll get the next procedure. And you'll want to open the simulation. When you open the simulation, you're going to want to hit Control, let's see, you want to right click, and you want to open this in a new window. The reason you want to do that is that you need to be able to go back to the directions. Opening it in a new tab is going to allow you to go back to the directions. So this, we're looking at the procedure, where you're going to actually do the work, and here's the lab report. And having it open in another tab will allow you to toggle back and forth. So here are your directions that tell you what you're supposed to do for the lab. Let's look at this. In this first tab, you're going to put the mass of the graduated cylinder. Mass of the graduated cylinder is going to stay the same. The second column is going to be the total mass of the graduated cylinder and the water. So we'll have a graduated cylinder that we'll weigh. We're going to add some water to it, and then we'll weigh it again. Then we'll need to calculate the mass of the water. Well, the mass of the water is just going to be the total mass, which is here, minus the mass of the graduated cylinder, because we don't want to include the mass of the graduated cylinder. We just want the mass of the water. The volume of the water can be read on the scale. If you zoom in, you'll be able to see the calibrations on the graduated cylinder and find out what the volume is. The density of the water is just the mass divided by the volume. Watch your significant figures here. Make sure that you have the correct number of significant figures for your volume. If you have any questions about that, you can email me. I'll look over your lab before you turn it in if you want me to. Ethanol is done pretty much the same way, and the unknown liquid is pretty much the same. The mass of the graduated cylinder, the mass of the graduated cylinder, and the ethanol. Calculate the mass of the ethanol, read the volume of the ethanol, and then calculate the density. Okay, so you should be able to identify your unknown liquid using this table, and then we'll need to find the density of various metals. So we'll start with iron. We'll weigh out the iron, and then we'll have a starting volume of water and a final volume of water. The volume of iron is the difference in the starting and the final volume. And when you do when you calculate the density, you'll want to use the mass of the iron divided by the volume of the iron. So don't get confused, because you'll have 3 volumes here, but the starting, actually the final minus the starting will give you the volume of the iron. And the same thing will be done for aluminum. You need to create a graph, and I have another video on how to do the graph. And then you'll do an unknown metal, and it'll be done the same way. Make sure you write a well-crafted paragraph, at least 7 sentences. It needs to have an introductory sentence and a sentence at the end as a summary. Use some of those English skills. And then we've got a couple of problems for you to do. If you show work, I'll be able to give you partial credit. I know sometimes it's hard to show work when you're doing it, if you do it in Word. Okay, that's all you need to know for this week. Good luck, and let me know if you have any questions.